Red, let me know when you're ready.
What if I
might have
told you
an
I'm already
idea.
recording?
Oh. Okay.
We got caught in the act.
Oh no.
4K.
Pretend like nothing's happened.
We got
Too
caught
late.
down bad in
It's
4K.
too late.
Let's just go through the call. So we'll start with DJ, then Zeke, then Hazel, and just kind of go down that line. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm DJ. I am obviously one of the composers for Axial. I joined the team, I believe, the day before my birthday in 2019. And the story's kind of funny because a few months before that, Sawyer was my round one in a Smash tournament. I lost in one of the easiest matchups for my character, and then I somehow found his Twitter, and I found out that he was making this game and he was looking for people to help him out, including composers. And I'm like, wow! Because I was on some Mario fan game before, but things didn't really pan out. And at first I sent him an Eisen emoji in the post, and I thought that was supposed to imply enough, but later on I just said, hey man, if you're still seriously looking for a composer, I mean, I'd be really, really happy to help you. I know you beat my Lucina, but give me a chance here. I think I can really bring something to your soundtrack. Apparently Sawyer left a comment on the post saying he wasn't actually looking for composers, and that was an addendum to the post he made before, but I didn't read it, so I was still under the assumption he was looking for new composers, and he was a little reluctant because of that. He already had Graves and Hazel, and Zeke was already applying, so that's 4 composers already, and now it's just becoming an issue of too many cooks spoiling the kitchen. But I rearranged Lux's theme, which you hear in Bluewood Forest, and then after that, Sawyer had me write a new normal battle theme, which you hear all throughout the game, and he loved it, and that's how I got onto the team.
My name is Zeke. I'm a metal musician. I do stuff solo as Ezekial Enigma, and then I'm also in a Fire Emblem-inspired symphonic black melodic death metal band called Grimleal. That's not what I do normally, but I also do video game music on the side too, something I've always had an interest in. So when I first joined the Axial team, it wasn't originally as a composer. Originally, I was going to be more as a playtester. I saw everyone using a thing called Jumbox, which is how we compose the entire soundtrack, and I got curious about it. For the first little bit, I started messing around with it, experiment, and then eventually I got to a point where once I became familiar enough with it, I was like, you know what? I want to compose stuff for the game. The first thing I composed for Axial was Seal's theme, which you hear in that first cutscene in the Astral Point parking lot where Seal comes in. She already had a theme, but Graves wasn't satisfied with the way it turned out, so he wanted to make like a new one. Then eventually, when I jumped in on it, came up with something, and yeah, it kind of stuck. Because I did Graves' old idea as well, I still wanted to retain it to an extent. I also helped out with Battle in the Wood. I kind of helped DJ start on Father Figure, which is Josh's theme, and mainly in regard to word painting. In a nutshell, word painting is where you would spell out words or lyrics or like the syllables with a melody. I also did the boss battle theme for Seal and Ania, which that one was really cool and really fun to compose. Not only because in a way it's kind of a mashup of both Seal and Ania's themes, but then also just going completely bonkers. You'd probably hear that you got to like a shredding guitar solo and all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah, as far as like contributions to the game soundtrack goes, about as much as I got so far, which isn't a whole lot, but then again, I was late to the party.
Alright, I think we now have Hazel up next. Now, I would also like to preface, Hazel, I'm pretty sure, composed 30 of the tracks for Axial.
Oh wow, was it that many?
I ended up making a playlist for each of your contributions, so it'd be easier for Solo and Red to figure out who did what. And
That's so cute.
I realized while I was
nice.
making the playlist that Hazel did over half of the OST.
Hello, I'm Hazel. I joined the soundtrack team second after Graves.
I feel like you joined almost simultaneously with Graves.
Yeah, it was around the start. And so the program that we use to write the soundtrack is called Jumbox, and it's a modded version of the original website called Beatbox. This is like an 8-bit sequencer. And when it first came out, it was like a very simple tool. And so at the very start, pretty early after this website started gaining traction, a Discord server was created. And I was in that for a very long time. Since around 2015. Graves was also on there, and we ended up doing quite a bit of collabs with each other. So at that point, I didn't know that Axial was a thing, but Graves had joined, and then pretty quickly after that, he invited me. And so I was like, Okay. I guess we could have 2 composers.
Little would you know at the time.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that I did so many tracks from the game's soundtrack, but the one that I'm by far like the most proud of is the Start of City theme. And so I sent it to Sawyer, and I think he was the one who decided where it should go. Within the Axial OST group, I think it's a pretty like known melody among us.
I'm pretty sure it is one of, if not the like, is staple song. I can't imagine not hearing that in Axial now.
Actually, a lot of the boss themes that you'll hear were collabs between me and Graves, which he's just so good at writing chords. And I think that working on this project has really improved our skills over time. So far, we've been working on this for 3 to 4 years.
It's almost hitting 5 years, actually.
Wait, really?
Wow.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Oh my
November.
Graves and I, we've always worked on a lot of music together. And I think working on the Axial soundtrack has led us to really improve to the point where we even made our own album, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And this is our opportunity to shout out Static Head. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to Static Head.
Yeah.
Great album.
I'm showing that right now.
I was actually going
Non-stop
to-
bangers.
I was gonna bring it up in a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, plug it as often as we can. That's the rule.
But yeah, I would
We need to
agree
hit
with
a quota every 15 minutes to plug the album.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I would agree with what Hazel said there, that being on the Axial Composer team has improved our skill as musicians, because even I myself too would agree that being on the team has also improved my skill as a musician and a composer too. And then not to mention that introducing me to a very useful tool that now I still use to this day, not even just for chiptune or whatever, but just putting stuff together, sketching songs and ideas out. Like now Jumbox has become like a very regular tool in my music making arsenal.
I'd like to add, Jumbox is completely free for anyone who wants to use it, who's watching.
Yeah.
It is a completely free tool. Beatbox started out free as well, but there wasn't much you could really do with it. But Jumbox has so many features. Modulation, those extra channels.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
one more thing that I wanted to mention is, so there's some songs that you hear in the game where, for the most part, Sawyer wanted the soundtrack to be purely based off of Game Boy music. And so a lot of the songs we wrote under some constraints. You can't do like smooth volume changing. I think that's one of them. I don't remember exactly. But some of the songs that you hear in the game are like way past that. And 90% of the time, the reason is because either me or Graves wanted to go further.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs, especially at the end of the game, where the boundaries keep getting shattered, and most of the time it's Graves and Hazel taking the helm.
I assure you, I've read the sentence. No, that's too many channels. Before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so everyone keeps mentioning Graves. I think we need to meet Graves. The
Well,
one and only.
let's get some Graves.
Howdy, I'm Graves. I was first besides Spinel Sawyer to join. I've known Sawyer since we're just acquaintances on Twitter, because I started using Beatbox back when I was 14 years old. Loved chiptune music, and my biggest dreams was to be like a video game composer. I had no musical background whatsoever. I didn't really get a lot of time to like do band and other musical things that I enjoyed as well. So Ian and Sawyer knew each other on Twitter for quite a while, but we weren't ever really like close. And the Discord up, oh hey, we'll join this. And I officially like met him there, and we got to talking a little more. And then that's it. You got close, and I think I mentioned how I was like, yeah, I want to be a game composer, and you're like, well, good thing for you, me too. And then you invited me to a group chat called Axial. Within that week, we invited Hazel. We used nothing but Beatbox, and I grew with that. Moved on to Jumbox.
You guys now have, if I remember correctly, your official soundtrack on Bandcamp for like $7 or something.
Not all that expensive.
For like 64 songs? No. $7 is not expensive. It's like 64,
64
65. Yeah, 64 bangers. Hey, Rem, have fun making this intro work.
How dare you?
Sawyer, was slowly adding more and more composers, did that add any layer of difficulty? Was getting more and more team members, did that make it more complex to even create the game? And any of you guys can come in on this. I'm just directing it towards Sawyer, since they, I believe, were the project lead.
It was pretty complicated because, okay, so at first I've got like 2 people that I have to catch up to speed. And of course there's that artistic vision that I mentioned with the Game Boy thing, because it's a Game Boy inspired video game. And I wanted the soundtrack to actually like encapsulate the way that Game Boy games feel, because there's a lot of chiptune music where it has too many channels and it has real drums as the percussion, and it just felt kind of muddy to me. It felt like it lost the spirit of what 8-bit music really was. So at first it was just making sure that Graves and Hazel were up to speed, that like, you know, you have 3 channels with the pulse waves. You can have 1 custom wave channel and then 1 percussion channel, which is a very rigid, strict way of composing music. But my concept around that was that when we have the really, really important moments where we want this moment to musically stick out, we can break the rules. And because the rules of the music is so rigid and strict, breaking those rules causes it to become especially noticeable. I would say you can definitely feel that with the final boss theme in particular, because they just went ham on that.
We broke the rules. We broke them a lot.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure that was a track taken from the Static Head album. I think it's about halfway through.
Well, funny enough about that one is used Sweat's theme. Like, Hazel and I were just messing around on some songs. Like, yeah, we'll mess around with Sweat's theme just because we really like it. Like, yeah, let's clean it up. Let's add to it. So we started working on the final boss theme, and then we gave it to Sawyer, and he was like, "Nah, Chief, that is way too many channels." And we're like, "Darn." And so he's like, "Oh, whatever. We'll just repurpose it to use in our album. Finish the song."
Plug the album, by the way. Check it out.
Yeah, check out Static Head. Yeah. So...
Continue. Didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine. So then we finished the song, and we're like, "Nice. This sounds really Axial-y." And then there also was like, "Yeah, we need a final boss theme," and yeah, this sounds really good. 'Cause we were showing the album to everyone, and everyone was being nice and sweet, and they're just like, "This is amazing." Oh, and then Sawyer was like, "Yeah, this sounds really Axial-y," and I was like, "Huh, you don't say." So then we repurposed it back into the final boss theme.
Do any of you have any thoughts on how making music was with those constraints as well?
For me personally, it was interesting and also quite challenging because I did not have experience with chiptune up until now. Because here's the thing, I'm more used to working with actual instruments. So yeah, using Jumbox, composing chiptune music, and composing within those limitations was honestly quite interesting and a bit of a challenge for me, but I enjoyed it.
For me, there's 2 sides to composing within the constraints that we were given. And one thing that's hard to do is make a song that sounds really full, because obviously you're very limited in the number of instruments you can use, and it's hard to make full sounding chords. On the other hand, trying to write music that's really complicated, or rather like more complicated than what we're limited to in terms of the types and number of instruments, it can be really hard to get the sound that you kind of want, because you have to think about the melody and in terms of what all the instruments are doing, but then you also have to decide what each instrument should be. And so when you're limited to Game Boy waves, there's not many options. You can kind of decide on what the best one is. But when you're trying to do something that sounds more complex, it can be really hard to find something that you think fits perfectly. And I think that's something where forcing yourself to write music within the constraints really helps, because then it goes a lot faster.
Kind of reminds me a lot of if you guys have ever written poetry, writing a haiku or writing a sonnet. You have really big constraints, but you have to really melt down what are the core feelings I'm trying to evoke. What do I want? What do I need? What can I get rid of? And then when you strip it down to its core, you end up with just like a burst of moment, energy, of texture. So that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Now, from my point of view, writing within those constraints Actually, it's really, really fun because you got to focus on making it sound full with just 3 voices. Like in Battle in the Rain, I managed to do that by having the bass, how it goes like do 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 do. That's the trick that they did in the Pokemon games on Game Boy. Just using that bass to sort of fill in that space, using these big harmonies that sort of cover a lot of range. But then also, it's not hard to get overwhelmed with your selection of instruments because you have so little. But you also got to find ones that really fit the song. You can use them to create different textures, like you mentioned, with the haiku thing, like creating different textures with those different sounds. Yeah, like it's easy because you're not really writing a lot in terms of orchestrating it, but you're also making sure that it sounds as good as it possibly can within those constraints. There are a lot of incredibly talented composers who took those constraints and just made them sound twice as much. Off the top of my head on the Game Boy, I can name Alberto Gonzalez and Stello Ducis, who is actually a Commodore 64 composer, but transferred over to the Game Boy and just made it sound like it had 8 tracks in it instead of 3. So it is just really fun working in those constraints and just seeing what you can do with them.
Now, I will say the soundtrack of Axial is, I think, one of its biggest selling points. It's the thing that makes Axial more than stand out of like, oh, it's a mechanical game where you steal abilities. That's cool. But when you have this really immersive soundtrack for all of these instances, it really just feels like this professionally polished game. You guys wanted to make it sound like a Game Boy game. It reminds me, if I actually had a physical Game Boy, it feels like I could plug this in and it would boot up. It would work. I think that's to your credit. Now, I wanted to ask a little bit about the length it took to make this game. This game was not a small commitment. This was a large commitment over years. Can you guys give me some of your thoughts on how you managed to stay committed, getting on task, or just finishing it? I mean, you guys have, I'm certain you know, how many people quit halfway through making an album. You guys should check out Static Head. How many people?
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
How many people quit in making a game? Can you guys talk about that longevity? What gave you guys that staying power?
At first, it was just for like 2 years-ish. It was mostly just Hazel, Sawyer, and I, and then also some of Sawyer's friends, just kind of discussing the story, how that would play out, just shooting ideas back and forth, because Sawyer already had like a pretty strict, like, all right, here's what I want going on, here's the mood I want for this. So we were just working on with just songs, just fun first, and then had 2 other composers that had joined before DJ Zeke. They were Jazz Dog and 11 Sam. Unfortunately, they stopped. They helped me make 2 tracks, I do believe. At first, it was just of us just messing around, and then Sawyer started programming stuff. Like, oh, whoa, it's happening! Oh God, it's happening! and then that's when we got to see DJ Zeke, and the MVP for a lot of the Disc 1 album OSTs. Definitely, I think goes to DJ, just because like his use of, in those constraints. On beatbox, that's all you had. I can't see myself going back to that very often, but seeing how DJ does it,
I couldn't go back.
I couldn't. I see
you,
DJ
Graves.
do these things, and I'm like, whoa, I wish I could do that again.
So yeah, like Graves mentioned, we did have quite a few composers who either were active in the project but quit, or just really didn't go anywhere. So besides Jazz Dog and Levin, who was actually really damn good, it's a real shame he quit. We had a dude named Charwal who was interested in writing. One of my buddies, Quasar, hopped in. But yeah, like what really keeps me going is that writing music, especially video game music, my favorite thing in the world. I genuinely love doing this. And B, I mean, being in Axial, which is this completely new universe, and it's so tightly bound together, and it has such a committed team going forward, that just really drives me to just keep doing what I do and just leaving my mark on this. Like, honestly, seeing what Axial's become is incredible. We have our first part of this Axial universe out on Steam and Itch, and we're still going and we're still growing. That's what really drives me to keep going with this.
Has just been an amazing director overall too, because not only is he like strict with certain parameters that are obviously understandable, but he's so lenient with a lot of things. I think that's what makes him a really good director. There's probably so many songs that I had composed. I had this feeling in mind, but I was never liked them. And even Sawyer was like, yeah, I don't know if this fits this. And the amount of songs he had repurposed was just insane to me. And they fit somehow. I think the project would be nearly as fun to do if it weren't for the fact that we had a lot of freedom to do things we wanted to do.
Well, anyone who is a manager or supervisor, maybe take no. Sounds like a little bit of freedom with some constraints helped you guys keep going. Though I would love to hear from Zeke and Hazel a little bit about the longevity of staying with this project. Even though Zeke, you were, I think, the latest.
One thing I can say for certain about this game is that it was a passion project, not just for Sawyer, but I guess for everybody else as well, because everyone else shared in Sawyer's enthusiasm. We were all like really hyped for this game that we were composing music for, and to be completely honest, we had literally no incentive to stay. Like, there was really like no money in it or anything like that for our time. We're just literally here because we wanted to do it, and because we're very passionate, very enthusiastic. We're having a good time while doing it too. I guess the other thing too is like the way Sawyer managed everything was really good. He has this level of these are the rules and restrictions, but then he's also very lenient. Like, oh yeah, and here's the other thing too. The reason why we were able to do so well and we were able to work without falling flat in any way, I guess, was also because we weren't working on a deadline. Whenever we finish this game is whenever we finish this game kind of basis. So I think that really helped in not having like a hard deadline where we'd be forced to crunch, and then that would potentially like lower the quality of our art, because I'm of the school of thought that when it comes to art, you just can't rush it. If you try to force it, it just isn't the same as if you just let it come out naturally. And
for me, part of the reason that I was able to stay committed, especially during the beginning of the project, was that when we were first writing like character themes and location themes, they really were very fun, creative, musical prompts almost. So I'd say, what do we need? And Sawyer would say, like, we need a theme for a character who's like this and this and this, and he would list some character traits, and I'd be like, perfect, good. It was almost like a challenge of write a theme that fits this mood, and it's within the constraints of the Game Boy, and it's really memorable. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And then later on, what kept me from burning out was that then I didn't really get any specific guidance from Sawyer. I would write a song and I would send it in the Axial server like, is this good for anything? And about half of the time, the answer would be yes. And everything just fits really well. Like, I don't know how he did it.
That's what I'm saying. I have no idea how he did it. Like, some of these I'm just like, yeah, there's no way this sounds Axial. And then it's like, yep, like one of your unused ones was the hotel theme. I was like, how did he make this fit right here? How did he do that?
Yeah.
I mean, this game has 64 songs.
While I was composing music for Axial, I was also working on the EP for my own band at the same time. And then on top of that, I have other stuff going on in life at the same time as well. So I'm juggling all these things while also composing for this game, and I'm just really amazed at how I was able to balance everything.
I think my favorite example of Sawyer finding a song that was just sitting around using and repurposing it, the song that plays in the Shrine of the Ancients, that big pyramid in the Mirror Dunes. Probably one of my favorite songs in the entire soundtrack. It reminds me of Celeste.
Now, I would like to note, and I'm going to bring this up in a little bit, these people, these composers here, were never all in a call together at one time.
This is history of the making, fellas.
And yet we seem so natural.
It's so weird. We've like known each other for years, and we've ever been in one
right?
Sawyer, do you have any comments? I mean, people are giving a lot of props to you right now. Do you have anything you'd like to say with that? I mean, you don't have to. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I'm
I also
happy well, okay. I'm happy that it all paid off, really. That was one of my biggest fears, honestly, was people leaving the project, because it didn't give them much incentive to stay. And I told them several times, if you guys don't want to do this, you don't have to. I think part of the reason I was able to keep things going so well is just the fact that I didn't want to put pressure on anyone at any point. If you want to write this song, you can do it. I'd prefer it before I finish everything else about the game, but, in general, like, I didn't really want to put any pressure on anyone, because I know they're here giving their time and effort, basically getting nothing in return. And yeah, I'm kind of happy that it all worked out in the end and you guys actually did stick around. Yeah, we've lost people but I don't think we've ever lost an actual member of the team. And that's something that just makes me really happy, because having people stick around for 4, almost 5 years and having nothing that they can really expect to get in return from this other than just a contribution to a piece of art, it means a lot to me. It really shows how important this is, not just to myself, but other people.
Oh, and I mean, you guys have seen the response to this game. You guys have seen the response to the music you've created. People who see this love it.
I get butterflies every time I see like nice comments, just because, like, kind of cooked my skills and surrounded by people that I know really well. So, a lot of people, like you expect from like your friends, do something that might not necessarily be that amazing, but they're your friends. So of course they're going to be like, yeah, I like this. Seeing a lot of people you don't know just go, wow, this is really amazing. It was just a completely new feeling that I loved so much.
Music is just this huge universal language that every person is just naturally born to understand. And seeing the music that I write, and Graves and Hazel and Sawyer and Zeke, and seeing it just rub off on everyone, hearing these compliments from everyone, I don't do this for validation. I do it because I love it. It's just a nice little bonus to me. But seeing those comments is just like, it just makes it feel even more worth it. It's just amazing.
I think this is a good moment to remind everyone that Static Head is out.
Yeah, you know what? While we're
Totally
at it, can we
free.
while we're at it, can we plug my band too while we're at it?
I was
You may
actually
as well.
thinking, if you guys have anything you'd like to share and plug, we'd love to have it in here.
I like to
Yeah, go
share
for it.
that the Static Head album is out.
Whoa,
know-
really?
It's completely free. You don't have to pay for
Are you
it.
kidding me?
And actually, one thing that wasn't mentioned yet is the song from the album that we repurposed to use in the game. There is more of that song in the album than there's in the game. So if you want to hear more, yeah, go over there.
I guess on my end, I'm in a band called Grimleo. I think I mentioned already before. Right now, all we really have of significance is an EP called Time Surpassing Fate, and a single that released a few months ago called Dark Shadow. Those are not free, unfortunately, but they're still really cheap on Bandcamp. Like, the EP is like $5 digital, $10 for a CD, and then the single is just $1.
That sounds incredible, and I think everyone should definitely check them out. I do want to kind of circle a little bit back to it. Axial, I love talking about this. I just, I don't want to take too much of everyone's time.
We get you.
Yeah, sorry for taking over on that, but yeah.
That's okay. We love talking about Axial too.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little. I promise we did like hearing about it. I do want to ask before we run out of time about you guys, without ever being in a call, communicated to make this game. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, at first it started with Hazel, myself, and Sawyer just in a group message, and Sawyer moved it on to making an entire server, just so it'd be easier to have organized channels where we put things, where we plan things out, and then the more and more people joined just to check up what's going on, the more we had more composers, some people for art stuff, people for story, and overall visitors just checking the idea out. We had a lot of stuff planned out, so there's a lot of things that there's like an underlying like, oh, yep, we need this done, we need this done, we need this done. So we had dedicated channels to like explain things to each other. Even though we've never heard each other's voices, definitely talk to each other through text quite a bit, just talking about songs.
Pretty much that's what we did. Like, the server is well up and running by the time I joined, and everything was in the server. Posting my music, asking questions, making stinky jokes in front of Sawyer. That was all done.
Okay,
yeah.
I gotta ask a little bit of context on that.
Okay,
We gotta
do
do
DJ explain that.
Okay,
That
so
was great.
so I made this joke. So I wrote this song that plays in the sewers near the beginning of the game called Yuck. I wrote it, Hazel helped out, contributed a really nice little B section. And one day I just joked that like I should rename the song to Stinky. And Sawyer just said, "You're fired." So I decided to get revenge on him for firing me from Axial by relentlessly torturing him with Stinky jokes.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay.
I made his
Sorry,
life hell, dude.
Okay, that reminds me of another inside joke in the server too, and it's in regards to the character Seal. So, I don't know if it's known by now, at least maybe not to the public, but like within the Axial server, everyone knows that Seal is my favorite character, and that's pretty much part of the reason why I influenced my decision to compose her theme. But it was on Twitter, so Sawyer made a remark saying, "You just like her because she looks like Tarja, a character from Fire Emblem." And the ironic part about that is I had not even thought of that until he pointed it out. And then from that point forward, it just became a bit of an inside joke. Pretty much just pointing out the similarity in a way or whatever. It was kind of dumb, and sometimes it led to musical shenanigans too. Like one time I literally mashed up Seal's theme with Dark Shadow by Grimleal. And it works surprisingly well. I'm kind of shocked.
That was
how well it
surprisingly like good.
works. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm kind of low-key tempted to make a full version of that. But like, I don't know if I want to do that, considering Yomi Wagami's only like what 2-3 minutes, and then Dark Shadow's like 7 minutes long. So I don't know how I'd make that work. But yeah, in a nutshell, I guess so. Even though we never heard each other's voices, because we're all like very chill dudes, we're all very laid-back, chill, respectful people. So that made it easy for everyone to communicate and get along, and just eventually just get to a point where we're all buddy-buddy with each other.
One of the things that was amazing though is just how we were just acquaintances pretty much at the beginning. Now we're just like a weird small little friend group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of growth, you guys have all kind of spoken that Axial and this project has made you guys grow as artists and as creators. Can I ask a little bit about the future for each of you? Like, what are your plans besides Axial Disc 2, which may or may not be able to come out?
Oh, we hope it does. I'm at least going to be around as long as I can. Even if the last Axial, whatever it is just me and Sawyer just trying to make the whole thing work, I mean, I'll do it. I want to see this to the end, and then I want to stick around for anything more that our ragtag group of game designing buddies do. But yeah, outside of Axial, recently, thanks to Sawyer actually, who invited me to the RPG Maker community, encouraged me to participate in a game jam. Recently, I've been scoring soundtracks for some people within the RPG Maker community. I started off actually by entering the Enter the Heraldverse jam that was last August, making my own game, which Sawyer actually let me use a lot of Axial assets for, and then writing a completely original soundtrack for that. And then actually just 2 days ago now, I joined a team of pretty well-known figures in the RPG Maker community for the October 2021 jam. And we just released our entry, Dracula is Dead, which is a murder mystery game, the 15th. And whenever I write a soundtrack, I try to release it onto my SoundCloud and my itch.io. And while I'm waiting until after October to drop Dracula is Dead, Stuck in the Past is on my itch and my SoundCloud. I also link to the Axial soundtrack on my itch. And yeah, I just hope that this blossoms into something new. Like, I feel like even though I'm like between Axial and these other little soundtracks I'm doing, I'm living my greatest dream. But I know that it's just the beginning, and I know that I can go sky high from here. Rungs on a ladder, I'm just climbing and climbing and climbing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seriously, that's kick ass.
It is,
next,
man.
In my case, I joined another dev team that's friends of Sawyer's, so I'm composing stuff for their games. And yeah, obviously I'll be composing stuff for whatever else Sawyer has in the works. Other than that, I'm working on my own music on my band. I'm currently involved with my local metal scene, starting to work with people because, now like with COVID restrictions lifting and stuff, starting to be able to see each other in person and whatnot, so that's kind of cool. I might end up joining like some other people's bands down the line or something. What else? I have my own project in the works. I can't say too much about it yet, but I have already released a few songs relating to it through Ezekial Enigma, so yeah, there's that going on as well. I do have plans to make some kind of game that I'm making, or that I wanted to make. A few songs that I've released are related to it, or going to be part of its soundtrack. Also doing music for a F-Zero fan game. Other than that, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's lots of possibilities and opportunities out there waiting for me now.
Outside of Axial, I'd love to work on any future projects that Sawyer has, so let me know. But
I got you, fam.
besides that, Graves and I recently started working on a new album, which is very exciting.
Very excited.
Our first album took a long time. It took, I think, almost 2 years or something.
It's about a year and a
So-
half, and
Yeah, don't hold your breath, but we are working on it.
Speaking of which, guys, Statica, it's out right now.
you're gonna kill me with this.
Please continue. Sorry.
Besides that, I don't know. I don't really have any plans. Just whatever opportunities come up.
It's ride or die at this point, so obviously any project Sawyer has, I'm sticking with. Outside of that, I mean, not really sure, because I only made music just kind of as a hobby, just a small little teenager, no musical experience, kind of grew up into a musician now, so a strange title to have. I guess at one point, it's always been my dream to be a video game composer, but now actually composing for a video game, it was a lot more fun than smaller me could have actually imagined or dreamed up. It was such a big experience that I loved being a part of. I guess a future dream would be Fox stamp of approval. I want to be like, if I did a music for a game, I'd like right on the cover they'd be like, soundtrack made by Retroreaper, and I'm like, yeah, that's a selling point right there. The goal.
I think you are definitely on the path to doing that. You guys have made some really incredible music to the point where you guys have fans, like, straight up fans. That's kind of cool, right?
Ridiculous,
That's
man.
That's really cool.
So, is there anything you guys would like to say to your fans?
Hello.
Thank you so much. There's not much I can really say. I just feel so grateful, I guess. I don't know. To imagine being in that position, I guess.
Wait, you guys
Clouds
actually
up.
listen to my music? I thought it was just a joke.
Oh my god. I'm literally sweating. It's had me laughing this entire time. Wow. I don't want to take too much of your time, and I know Red, who hasn't been saying too much, is gonna
Oh, I
have
could
a
talk
lot
about
of-
this all night.
But seriously, if you guys have any thoughts that you'd like to say, right, this is a good time. I kind of want to punt this to you guys now.
I just want
Yeah.
to say I'm so proud of you guys. Like, I know I've been pulling a lot of the weight for most of this project, but that doesn't change the fact, like, even if I've been pulling the carriage myself, you guys have been talking with me while I've been pulling that carriage, and it's so nice just not being alone. Yes, you guys did the soundtrack, and I love the music so much. That is what Axial is, but I think what was more important to me in the end was just having someone to talk to during all this.
Oh yeah,
Like-
right? It's always nicer when you have people around you, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys, because you guys are like a family to me now, Like, if I
Oh my
Wanna-
god.
Aw.
Sawyer.
It's
Yeah,
true.
We're all like brothers.
Thank you, Mom.
We've
Best
been
mom
working
I've
on this
ever
thing
had.
for so long now, like basically like an eighth of my life. Yeah, of course you guys are like a family to me. So I'm just really happy to have you guys, and especially hearing that you guys want to stick around for future projects. That's exciting.
Yeah, at this point we're all like brothers, so yeah, we gotta stick together.
I love
So
you
you're-
all.
Love you
so
guys
kind
too.
of-
That's kind of gay.
Yeah, no homo.
Oh, man.
No homo. You're my world, bro, but no homo, bro.
C for companions, am I right?
Oh my goodness.
That's beautiful. That
See,
should
you're gay.
that's our characteristic now.
Alright, Red, do you have any questions?
Head empty. I'm just chilling over there. I'm trying my best to not laugh because it's very late for me and I'm not supposed to make sound. But you guys are making it very hard.
Yeah,
I'll take that as both an insult and a compliment.
Good. Especially an insult. Good.
you guys should be so proud of the journey you guys have done. And again, I think people are very inspired by you. I know I am. I say this to several game devs, but like, Sawyer, look at what your vision has created. Look at what you've brought together. It's pretty incredible. There are some amazing composers who have come together to make this, I would just say, I have no other way to describe it, but a masterpiece. Just an absolute masterpiece. And I'm just starstruck
Dude,
Every time I look at Axial.
To hear you say that means a lot, man, and I'm not even the man in charge.
Yeah, okay, honestly, as somebody who has been behind the curtain with Sawyer, even I can agree with your sentiment there. Even I myself am just amazed like that. When I look at Axial, I'm like, wow, this is Axial. Even though I've been behind the curtain with Sawyer, seeing this thing as it gets built up and everything, I'm still just amazed by, like, you know, what has come out, like the fruits of our labor. I'm just like, wow, I can't believe it. This is an actual game.
Well, the most important thing all of you should remember is that Statican is out, and you should check it out.
Statican!
Free on Bandcamp.
But on a very real note, thank you guys so much for coming.
I've been composing music since I was in like 3rd grade. In 2 days, October 19th, will mark 15 years since the oldest Finale Notepad file I've written. And I rediscovered this in, I'd say, about 5 years ago. Can't believe it's been 5 years already, but yeah, I kind of rediscovered my love for writing music when I was going through a really rough time in my life. And I always knew that there was a way out, and if I could go back then and just say, hey, Depressed DJ, you're part of an amazing composer team. You've released Axial Disc 1. It's making waves around this community. People are loving the songs you wrote, and you're writing more soundtracks for other people, and you're actually becoming a video game composer. Like, that's a reason to go on. And just, I gotta say, that Smash set with Sawyer is the best set I've ever lost.
I'm gonna be honest here. If I were to, you know, go to my younger self and tell him like everything that he was going to accomplish, he would not believe me. Tell me to STFU and GTFO, tell me that I'm full of shit, basically. Like, he would not believe me. But yeah, someone who like basically started off just playing guitar and sucking at it for a few years, just for fun, and you know, not really thinking of or planning to go anywhere with it. But then eventually, you know, because I kept practicing and kept improving, and then I got to a point where I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should do something with this. And ever since I said that to myself, I haven't looked back since, and I'm really glad that I did. Before then, like, my life was kind of meaningless and directionless and kind of hopeless. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't even think I was gonna live past 18, honestly. But then after that, I don't know, things just changed for the better. You know, even though I've gone through quite a lot of things even after that still, but regardless, I've always managed to press on and just remain steadfast through everything, because, you know what, that's what it means. To have something to strive for, that's what it means to live. And that's the meaning of life for me, is to always have something to strive for.
So for me, I think that without having joined this project, I wouldn't have done too much with composing music. Because like Sawyer said earlier, it's just nice to have people to talk to, people to give you feedback. I think without that, I definitely wouldn't have gotten as far in just improving in composition. I'm just really thankful for that.
For me, I guess, I'm just still baffled the fact that I'm still making music. I started off making purposely crappy little songs on a free website I happened to find with my middle school buddies, now making arrangements for an actual game. Just kind of unreal, I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's so surreal just seeing my name on a soundtrack for a video game.
I just wanted to thank you guys for making an excuse to bring us all together, because honestly, Axial came out, and I mean, the way it happened, it just kind of fluttered on, you know, like we all took a moment to admire the work, and then we just went back to work. So it's kind of nice just having an excuse for us all to get together, and this is kind of like our post-launch celebration, you know? We didn't really have a real one to go with, so this is...
So busy at the time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm just happy we could all get together and talk about it.
Thank you guys again so much for coming. And I hope everyone who's watched this enjoyed it. And I hope they get to kind of feel the energy that I felt throughout this, because wow. You guys have come a long way. There's still a lot more to go. But
man,
I'm proud of you guys. Very impressive. I think
Thank you kindly, Solo.
Thanks for having us.
I hope to have you guys on next time when we see Axial Disc 2.
Well, you can count on that, man.
But till then, thank you guys so much for stopping by. You have a wonderful day or evening. That's the outro, right?